thank you so much for taking the time to join me here again today on Latte Liturgy. Today, I want to talk to you about this beautiful and precious gift that God has given us, this gift called lament. And for those of you who don't know what lament is, it's to grieve, it's to be sorrowful, it's to contemplate the weight and burden and heaviness of life. It is the dark night of the soul, if you will. It is the wounds that are deep within us and sitting with them, lamenting, to be sorrowful about what we are enduring and what we are experiencing. And maybe you think, man, I'm crazy. Like, how on earth can you call lament a gift? Well, I want to talk to you about that today, because we live in a day and age where everyone's afraid of being sad and everyone's afraid of wounds and hurts. And so even in the church, we want to move quickly to fix things and just point people onto joy and, okay, be content and be glad and be happy. And wonderful, who doesn't want to be glad and happy? And there's definitely place for that. But we can't even have honest conversations with people anymore. You approach some people in church and you ask them, hey, how you doing today, brother? And maybe they're going through the worst time in the world, but they're going to answer, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, hallelujah. And like, no one's being honest anymore. No one's being open about what they're really enduring. And we kind of suppress and hide whenever we're experiencing seasons of sorrow. And the thing is that the Bible doesn't do that. The Bible doesn't brush our hurts under the rug. It doesn't sweep them away. It encourages us to sit with them, to learn from them, to grow from them. And there's this beautiful section of the Psalms. About 1/3 of the Psalms are Psalms of lament. And these are beautifully cathartic. They help us purge our emotions, and there's not this rush that you have to get through them. And this is something that people do when they get to these Psalms and they read them in the scriptures, where David is being just gut-wrenching honest about what he's going through, his afflictions and the hurts and the wounds that he's experiencing and the things that burden him. And we kind of want to race past those and get to the happy bits, like, oh, but I'm sure at the end of the psalm he's going to be content, so let's race through and read to that point. And I think we skip through this beautiful blessing of just getting to pause and to experience the hurt a little bit, to sit in the wound a little bit. And we don't talk about that enough in church. Our God is the God for the weary and for the hurting. He himself was a suffering servant. He himself took upon our wounds and understands what it is to be tempted in every way. He is not ignorant of our hurts. And if we pitch to people this lie, this God that is pristine and perfect and has never been hurt and doesn't know what it's like to be wounded, and if we pitch to people this fake Christianity that is all joy, all hope, all happiness, it's not realistic and it's not authentic. Yes, there's joy and happiness in the Lord, of course. And yes, the ultimate hope of all Christians upon the return of God is that all pain and all suffering will be done away with. Absolutely. These are very real and wonderful truths and hopes of Christianity. But Christianity is also real. The God that we serve is honest and authentic and genuine. And part of the life experience, part of living, especially in a fallen world, being ourselves products of fallenness, is that we will experience hardships. We will experience hurts. We will experience seasons where we are wounded. And God doesn't tell us, okay, get up quickly, wipe it off and move on. No. The Lord loves us in the depth of our affliction. And it is okay to feel sorrowful. As Paul says, sorrowful, but always rejoicing. But he doesn't deny the sorrow. And especially in an age now where people have become, at least to some degree, more informed and aware about the realities of mental health and people who struggle, for instance, with depression. The church for so long has had poor language for dealing with this, and we kind of just tell people, well, just quote some scriptures and just encourage yourself in the Lord and increase your faith and just sing and worship and through the storm. And listen, I've heard it all, and there are truths to all of that, but there's also truth to sitting in the sorrow, and that's okay. And I'm not saying fester and reside there forever, but I'm talking about the honesty of, it is okay to have a season where you are wounded, and it is also comforting to know that even in the middle of your wounds, in the middle of your hurts, God is going to meet you there. The God that we serve is not scandalized and scared off by our afflictions. He's not nervous that we experience any hardships because then he doesn't know how to help us. Quite the opposite. God is most glorified when we can abide in him even in seasons of deep affliction. Lament, sit in sorrow and in grief, and know that God will love you there. One of the most famous Psalms, if not the most famous Psalms, is Psalms 23, and we know it very well. And David talks about several things, but just one thing. I'm not going to exposit the passage in its entirety. I just want to focus on one thing I noticed. The first couple verses, David is talking about the role of God. He leads me. And there's this clear guidance that when God is the one leading, things are okay. And then there's this shift. And then David says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, his rod and his staff, they comfort me. And there's this shift where we went from what's happening when God leads us to what happens when we perhaps go our own way and we walk in the valley of the shadow of death. And yet what's beautiful about that is that David talks about the rod and the staff as things that comfort him. And obviously the rod and the staff, one is for fighting off wolves and one is for reeling in sheep, and both serve their purpose. And perhaps this is someone is going through something because of a season of disobedience, or someone is just going through something because the world is broken and hurts happen. And yet David can say that in the valley of the shadow of death, in those moments, the wrath and the staff of God, or the rod and the staff of God, they comfort us. This is good news. It is good news today that if you are feeling incredibly discouraged, if you are feeling hurt, if you're feeling wounded, if there is lament, rest in that and let the Lord meet you there. Don't feel like you have to hide it. Don't feel like you have to hide it from God. Don't feel like you have to hide it from others, and definitely don't feel like you have to hide it from yourself. Do not be scared to experience sorrow, because the God that we serve meets us in our sorrow, and it is perhaps in the darkest of our seasons where the light of the gospel shines brightest. It is perhaps when we are most afflicted where we see Jesus as most precious and beautiful. So don't hide, don't lie, and don't pretend like you're not going through a hurtful season. If you are enduring hardship, it is okay. It doesn't mean you lack faith. It doesn't mean that you're a bad Christian. It definitely doesn't mean that God is the God of only the healthy and he's only the God of the joyous. No, he came for the broken, and he meets us in our brokenness. And so enjoy the reality and the comfort and the freedom that comes from saying, hey, maybe right now I'm in a tough spot. Maybe right now my season is so heavy, I don't even have the words. Well, then I point you to the Psalms of Lament in the scriptures. May they bring you comfort as you see that the God who is the God of the Psalms of praise is also and equally the God of the Psalms of lament. And may the Lord today meet you wherever you are, whatever it is that you're going through. May you experience the fact that you can find peace and stillness and rest even in a season of affliction. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I hope that you've been encouraged today, and I look forward to talking to you when we meet next. Take care.